All right, Peter, here we go. We're finally recording.
Again.
Podcast number 215, Flipping Houses for Rookies.
Good morning, Mr. Florida.
Episode number 215. Today's episode name is 8. 8, Peter. Major components every creative real estate investor needs for gargantuan profits.
8.
8.
8 what's? What are you calling them? 8 what's?
8 major compartments every creative real estate investor needs for gargantuan profits.
All right.
So here we go.
Okay.
Wrapping your wits around creative real estate investing could be challenging, not to mention extremely exhausting. So many moving parts and twisted around is. I'm going to do that again. Okay, I'm going to actually start over again. Okay, I'm still on all the technical issues we had. Yeah, there you go. All right, wrapping your wits around creative real estate investing could be challenging, not to mention extremely exhausting. So many moving parts and twisted and parts just twisting around. It's hard to hit the target that will strike you gold. Ever stop and think why one of the biggest businesses in the USA is not taught in universities or all in one spot? And why the free market doesn't ever produce one place to absorb it all, so much like a trade school. Once you get a degree, you can enter that field and work your way up the income ladder. You know, like a plumber, an electrician, or, all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, even music has schools. Music is really random if you think about it. It reminds me a little bit of real estate. There's parts here, parts there. This is a guy, that guy, opinion here, opinion there. It's a science, but it's really random. But there's schools for that. You going to tell us why there isn't one for real estate somewhere here?
I think we're going to create it. Well, I want to make a bold promise after this podcast. You will not struggle with wrapping your arms around the creative real estate business and making high-end checks. What you are about to hear will stick with you just like the memory of riding your first bike. And I have to tell you, I struggle with that analogy because I wanted to use a different one. And it had to do with boys and girls behind the doors.
Back up there, buddy.
We're about to change the industry forever, Peter. Everyone, once they get what is in this episode, will soon be able to reach a PhD status in real estate because of what we have done.
Man, that's pretty bold words there, mister.
PhD, by the way, could easily mean paychecks had daily.
I like that.
Let me put my money where my mouth is. So let's dig in.
Okay.
So first of all, sorry for being late. Yeah, Desiree, I got it. Desiree's on Facebook saying she was scared. She didn't think we were coming. So don't forget to make sure you subscribe to whatever channel, to the channel you're listening to right now, wherever you're listening to us, whether it's on wherever you are. Also, I can't read my own writing here. Yes, so leave us a review as well. Wherever you're listening to us, please do that. Also, as of a couple podcasts ago, wherever you're listening to us, especially on your phone, if you go into the description of wherever you're listening to us, there is a link there to get you a bunch of free goodies. Just scroll down in the description, and that'll bring you right to our free page. And there's over 25, documents, videos, scripts, all kinds of stuff that are there that you can go get for free, completely on me. Okay, and as of a couple podcasts ago, we live stream on Facebook, so you can find us on Facebook as well as YouTube. So if you're a YouTube user, go over there and check us out. Okay.
Yes, sir.
So, Pete, I've been struggling with this for almost 20 years, but I think I'm on to solving the problem and getting something done about it now.
No kidding.
And today I'm going to reveal all of it out of this crazy mind. Okay. So here's my difficulty. Ever since when or ever notice that when you go to a RIA or a monthly RIA meeting or one of those meetings, each month there's a new guy giving you a way to make money in real estate?
Well, personally, I avoided that all by sticking like glue to you in your meetups. But I've heard the stories, yeah. But that reminds me, when I tried to start real estate, there were so many different bits and pieces and parts. I didn't know where to start.
Right.
Same problem.
And in the beginning, you would start buying these courses and different material, possibly software, all things you think will make you money.
Mm.
Right. And I know when I did this, I always walked away thinking, making my money back is going to be a cinch with this stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Promises.
Well, to be honest, I don't regret doing any of that. I honestly believe I'm here today because of all those days. Right. Now, I've said in the past, I've got over $100,000 in my education. Now, that doesn't mean you need to do that. It just means I'm a maniac and I want to do what I'm doing. But I have to tell you that that's over the course of 18 years. And I used my deals to fund my education. It was my profit, so I would take less profit, but it wasn't. In the beginning, I used some credit cards and I spent some money. But my first deal, I made 68 grand and I paid it all back.
Right.
Right.
Well, I believe in a business has to support itself. You just can't keep pouring money into it and not getting money back. You got to find a way to start and have it launch you and build its way up. Well, how do you know it's any good? And if you can do that, it's good. It's working.
I have a new saying. I don't know if you read my emails, but in the last couple of weeks, I have a new little saying.
Mm-hmm.
Real estate's not made to put money in. It's made to take it out.
Yeah.
Right? Which is true, which is what we do.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so however, what my problem is every month the new pitch man would come to town and show me there was another facet of real estate I didn't know about and I had to learn.
Yeah.
So it seemed there wasn't a clear path to actually start like at the line, like a race car starting at the start finish line, and actually being able to finish. It was like, here's the start line. Okay, if I drive around this racetrack 500 times, then I could win.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And there was at least somebody that did it before me that could help me and say, this is how you do it. Right.
Yeah.
It just seemed like it was up to me to weed through all the crap and find the gold without even knowing what was crap and what was gold in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I'm going to apologize because I'm outside because I'm going home pretty soon, but I'll back to Connecticut. But there's weed whackers and construction guys and all that stuff. So it was how am I supposed to know what's crap and what's good? That'd be like having to buy makeup from my wife, right? Which I could do, right? But which one's the best makeup? Which one's the crap makeup? And which one does she like?
Oh no! Forget it. No way.
Have you ever been in the makeup aisle like in Macy's or something like that? Watch somebody get a facial.
I walk through there as fast as I can.
Have you ever been with a girl and watched her get a facial?
No.
No?
Nope.
I summons you to do that, Peter.
Okay.
If you have not done that, I'm not sure I can count you as a full man yet. You might need You might need an indoctrination.
You gotta go to the makeup department in Macy's to be a man. Come on.
To watch a woman go through a facial.
Ouch.
It is amazing the technology that they have for makeup. And how the girls know it, the foundation and all the different things and the skin and the tone It's just amazing.
Really? Well, then do they have a men's department?
For makeup?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in Hollywood.
Hollywood, never mind. I have a Macy's nearby. I'll go check.
Basically, this whole search for me for finding the right piece of real estate was very difficult and stressful.
Yeah, it took you a long time too, didn't it?
Yeah. Well, I didn't do my first deal for almost 2 years.
Painful.
Yeah. And I had spent a lot of money, right?
I mean, how did you keep going? Because, working no paycheck, working no paycheck, working no paycheck. How long can somebody do that? How did you hang in there so long?
I owned my gas station and I was making money with my other job, but it was like I was doing my job, but my attention was on like this real estate. Every chance I could, I owned a used car lot, so I was in, moving cars and driving around a lot. I'd buy tape sets and I'd listen to them, in the car. And, I bought one tape set from Richard Roop that was the driest, most tedious thing to listen to. It had 38 tapes. I'll never forget it. And he was so dry. He was going over contracts and, oh my God, he was a super nice guy.
Yeah.
But dry. It was a 3-day seminar. I listened to that thing 3 times over the course of a month in the car.
Brutal.
In the car.
Man, you're stubborn.
I'm a dumbass.
Stubborn dumbass. But you need that. You need that. That's the problem with this. I mean, it really takes a while sometimes in the beginning to get that paycheck. But you got some shortcuts. You found the path that it shouldn't have to take that long. Because a lot of people can't wait. They just don't have that persistence.
Right. So
I'm stubborn too. That's why I'm here. I'm stubborn.
Yeah.
I don't. I'm in a group. I don't quit.
That's why I get angry and I blurt out when I say things like, what would have to happen for me to buy your house today? I can't tell you how long it took me to figure that out. How much money, how much time, how much energy, right? And then somebody will go change it because they don't like it. Or I'll tell somebody like, just do this or do that, and they'll think they have a better way, and they'll change it, and they don't even know, which is what we're going to talk about that towards the end of the podcast. So, so basically, what I feel like I've done is I've done a lot of this trial and error stuff, and I learned it, and I was able to keep it organized so I could show other people to do it. And at first it wasn't like I was not going to be, you put me in the information business because that's what we did 5 years ago, right? 215 podcasts ago, as we decided to do that together. I had no idea it was going to turn out to be this. But more importantly, I was doing it so I could train my staff and people around me.
Yeah.
Right.
So people ask you questions. It takes you too long to answer. There's too many. You never do it. So here's all the information. You want it? You go find it. It's right here. It's all sitting right in front of you. You put it out there for people.
Well, I got lazy because I got tired of telling people the same thing over and over again.
Well, it's not very efficient. This works better.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and I will tell you, even to this day, my organization and running people, because I have 3 employees right now, and I work to keep them going, and it never seems to be running on all 8 cylinders. There's always something. There's always a glitch. Like this morning. I mean, we spent 20 minutes this morning. We do this every week, and we spent 20 minutes this morning trying to get the podcast up and running because there was some technical glitch.
Yep.
Right. To the point where we just wiped out the podcast, and I had to go retype everything in and start from scratch. And I set the whole podcast up yesterday, and we just had to scrap it and start over again.
Yep.
Just what happens, My partner told me one time when I had a partner, he told me that every week something happens in a business. Don't think that it's just going to be like you're going to like set it up and it's going to run by itself and you don't have to do anything. It's like every week there's going to be a problem. So just be ready for the problems and handle the problems as they come, and that's your job. Your job is to handle those problems. So just say, okay, what's this week's problems, and just go handle them.
I think one of the best advices I got business-wise was stay in present time. What do you mean? Stay in present time. Don't tell me what used to work. Don't tell me what we did this last year. It may not have anything to do. Look what we're going through right now in our society. Stay in present time. Today, this week, what's going to work? What's not going to work? Right now. Forget last week. That's last week. I don't know. The car, famous words from wives. No offense, ladies. Honey, the car doesn't work. What's the matter? I don't know. It was good yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that matter? Yesterday. It's today. So stay in present time. What's going on today? That's one of the best advice I ever got.
You mean like last week when Emma told me she got a flat tire?
Oh, yeah. Really? I missed that one.
And now I'm a car guy, right? So I'm thinking, So after a few minutes of grilling her and asking her the right question, it literally took me 3 or 4 minutes. Oh, I hit a curb. Well, why didn't you tell me that at the beginning? It would have been a lot easier. We could, like whatever.
Sure.
Anyways, Michael Gerber wrote in the E-Myth that an executive thinks in the future, manager thinks in present time, employee thinks in the past.
Yeah.
Okay. Great datum. Great datum.
Yeah, that's good.
All right, good. So here's what I have observed after doing hundreds of deals myself and with my students. Hundreds of deals. Not, 1 or 2. I'm talking hundreds of deals.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so here are the compartments. Ready?
Yep.
There's 8 of them. So if you're listening to this, you should write them down, or you should rewind this and write them down, because we are going to be talking about this, which, by the way, I don't think we're going to be able to do everything in one podcast. We'll probably have to do a couple podcasts to get it all, so it's understandable. But the more I talk about it, the more we'll condense it, okay? So number 1 is creating your real estate existence through time management. So creating your real estate existence through time management.
So getting it going, starting it up, getting it to be something from, I would like to be a real estate guy, and actually having it to start being something. Is that what you're talking about?
Could be that way. Well, let's talk about you.
Sure.
So if you don't create your existence this week with real estate, what happens with your real estate business?
Not much. I might get calls from things I did before, but there'll be a dip somewhere.
So is it easy for you to all of a sudden have a 70th birthday party and have your attention go off to that and not do your calls during this week because you're more worried about your 70th birthday party and nothing happens?
Oh, it could happen. Yeah.
Is it possible you can go on vacation and nothing happens?
I hope so. That one, I hope so. Just 1 week, please.
So,
yeah.
So you have to create times or time blocking, and we're going to get into this next week, probably not this week, but you have to create blocks of time where you're doing the business. So number 1 is creating your real estate existence through time management. If you don't conquer that, then the whole house of cards will fall down. Number 2, deal hunting, marketing, and pre-screening. By the way, this doesn't work for just real estate. This works for any company, any business, if you think about it. If you don't go out there and find new prospects on a continuous basis, you do not have a business. You have a hobby.
Yeah.
Okay, so number 2 is deal hunting, marketing, and pre-screening. Okay?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Number three is generating creative deal structuring using available resources.
So once you have the deals coming in, you got to do a little analysis and figure out what kind of deal it could be, a couple options.
Let's say I'm a plumber.
You're a plumber.
And I go out and I advertise plumbing. How am I going to get the job? You think just because somebody calls me that I automatically have a job?
No, you have to. You
have to generate an offer and say to the prospect, "Here's what I can do for you.
Yeah.
Here's how it works. What do you think?"
Yeah, I actually went through that last week. I have some rusty water in one of my houses, and I called plumber, and he sent a guy over, and I said, "Well, maybe a new water heater." So good. How much? He says $1,400. I went, eek, because the last time I put a water heater in was $7,000. I went, eek. But see, his offer didn't fit. You're right. So it's not like I didn't say yes just because he showed up. That was just way too much money. So
I was worried about me, Peter, because the other day when I peed, it looked like it was rusty water, and I think I might be getting old and rusty.
you need to
Bad
drink more
joke.
water.
Bad joke. All right. So in real estate, generating creative deal structuring using available resources. So I don't want to like get into all these descriptions yet because I'm not ready. But let's say that you have no money, capital.
Oh, so this is like my question is, what do you mean resources? So this is what you talk about. You have what you have for potential to do it. So go ahead.
So you have no money. You don't know anybody that you can borrow for a rehab. Let's say you're buying a $100,000 house, you need $30,000 worth of rehab. You don't know how to find $130,000, which is bullshit to begin with because we show you how to do that and it's not as hard as you think, but your head thinks that, right? So why would you use number 2, deal hunting, to go find those leads? Why would you go on the MLS and look for a deal on the MLS, the multiple listing service, and go into that arena where they're looking for proof of funds and they're looking for all that kind of stuff, and you don't have those resources?
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
So if you don't have the availability to make that money, then just do lease options where you need $100 and go practice with a lease option until you can get some money together and get used to doing some deals and get a reputation with the people in the environment that you're a real estate person and blah 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 blah, and then you can move into that.
Right.
But you don't need to start with that. So you have to always do. So when I'm looking at a deal, right, when I'm creating or generating creative deal structuring, I'm looking at my available resources on how I'm going to structure that deal, and if that deal is worth it for me. If it's not, we have the wonderful world of wholesaling, or as we talked about a few weeks ago, we have this thing called an assignment. So if I don't have the resources, then I'm going to want to assign it, but I'm going to generate the deal so it's that way.
Right.
Okay. It's a whole talent within. It's a whole art within the art.
Well, it's like any business should not advertise things that it can't deliver. So I used to do lectures for different things, but I always figure, well, what services can we deliver? And I would talk about that. Well, should I just talk about any old thing? No. So a business should just see what it can deliver and then try to work towards that in the deal hunting and promotion or whatever they're going to do.
So let me get
somebody shows up and you go, well, I can't do that.
Right. Let me get technical for a second, okay?
Yeah.
So you're a plumber.
I am.
Right? You're a plumber. And somebody says they want you to do a job for HVAC, which is heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. And they have this job down at the grocery store where they're going to put in some new coolers in a grocery store.
Sure.
Well, I don't know if you know this or not, but they use copper pipe, and all the refrigerant lines are all copper pipes. They're all piped.
Yeah.
So would you call a plumber to put those pipes in? No, because what happens is because of the gas, the type of pipe they use and the way they weld them and the way they put the pipes in is different than a regular water pipe.
Gotcha.
So I would, if somebody said to me, I want you to, put this cooler in, I would be like, it's not in my available resources. I don't have somebody that knows how to use that specific type of weld. It's just different. Even though it looks like it's plumbing, it isn't.
Yeah. I had a conversation that once with a plumber. Said, "Do you do HVAC?" He goes, "No." I was surprised. I thought, well, isn't that kind of the same thing? But I get your point. It's not.
Right. Okay. It looks that way to a novice.
Yeah.
But once you dig in and you start doing things, which, by the way, this section we do a lot on, which we're going to talk about, and I have a whole bunch of free stuff. I have a course. If you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, at the very top of the page, if you put your name and email address in there, there's a whole course on how to do deal structuring and all the different aspects of it. So you can go there and learn how to do that. Number 4. So number 3 is generating creative real estate structuring using available resources. Number 4 is closing deals with proper paperwork using verbal agreements made. Right? So now the plumber gets an agreement from the prospect. Yes, I'll come to your house, but now they want to put everything in writing so nobody's confused.
That's right.
Because I might say to you, Peter, I would like for you to, go get lunch for me. and I would like a ham and cheese sandwich with Swiss cheese, lettuce, tomato, oil, and vinegar on a grinder. And you might come back with a sandwich that says ham and cheese with nothing on it on a hard roll.
Right.
You may not have understood or didn't know or forgot or whatever. If it's in writing, if I text it to you, you'll read it to the guy at the deli.
That's right.
Real estate's the same way. Okay. Number 5 is prepare the proper. Once you do the paperwork, you prepare the property for the buyer.
So we already closed, and now we're selling.
Well, you did the paperwork. So what does the paperwork mean?
Well, that's how you close.
Okay. Or sometimes we don't close.
Oh, yeah. If we sign it,
we do a lease option. Are we doing a closing?
Not yet.
Right. But we control the property. We have our agreements in writing. Who's doing what?
That's right. So either way, the next step is buyer, whether it's closing now or later. So I get it.
So we're controlling it now. So now what we want to do is we want to prepare for the buyer. Why would that be so important? Well, how many people have we seen come into our meetups and they tell us they do these renovations and what a beautiful job and they spend too much money?
Yeah.
Because they prepared it for them, not the buyer. Or they prepared it for a buyer, what they thought the buyer wanted, and not what was really needed and wanted.
Yeah, it seems like they're covering everything possible so there can be no complaints, so they'll buy it.
Right.
But now they spent themselves out of the market.
Okay, so now let's just rehash this one more second and we'll keep moving because I wasn't planning on spending this much time on it. But we buy an ugly house. We talked about this last week, right? We did a prehab. What is a prehab? It's preparing for the buyer. We clean the property. The buyer is going to be who? The guy that's going to move in there and do the rehab. So we prepared it enough so that he could see the vision and not have much of an imagination. Right. So what we're doing is we're taking the ability of imagination and we're guiding it so that they can see it. Because a lot of people don't have imagination. They can't walk into a dirty house and see it fully renovated.
Yeah, but it is amazing when you see the shows on TV from the beginning to end. Like, oh my God, like, and then we've done it ourselves. Like, Jesus, I lived in an apartment once that was inhabited by 40 cats and an owner. You can imagine what that was like. But by the time we were done, we covered every surface: rugs on the floor, wallpaper, painted everything. You didn't see anything that was there. All you see is a surface, and it looks fine then. But yeah, some of the houses we've been in, just trash everywhere. It's just a little gross.
Number 6, buyer hunting, marketing, and pre-screening. Okay.
Yep.
That's where you're going to go sell the house.
Yeah.
It's different than deal hunting. It's buyer hunting. Okay. Number 7, which we're going to cover in a few minutes. Number 7, closing the deal with paperwork and collecting your check. Right. Number 8, which is not worded correctly as far as I'm concerned, but I'm going to try to explain it. So rinse and repeat enough to develop a system so it doesn't stop. So in the beginning, you'll do it all yourself. You'll do onesies and twosies, and that's where number 1 comes in, which, by the way, it goes back to number 1 when you start over again, which is creating your real estate investing business by time blocking, right? Well, the way you get out of that trap is if you put systems in and you have VAs and other people do that for you, right? Because you've automated it, it will run automatically and things will happen and all you need to do is check on them. But you have to rinse and repeat enough so you understand the steps and the procedures before you can go build that system. Too many students are looking for the automation process and spend a lot of time doing the automation when they actually didn't do a deal, and they don't know what they don't know.
Yeah, isn't it a rule in business that you never ask your employees to do something that you couldn't or wouldn't or don't know how to do yourself?
Yeah, there's that theory. I mean, I've managed businesses that I don't know how to do it, but I definitely know the ins and outs of it, and I've been around it enough, and I know where the hiccups are, and I could forecast. So like suppose I ran the IRS,
Mm.
and I had an auditor. They
Mhm.
would go in and audit people, right?
Yeah.
I may not know how to be the auditor and know what to ask for and what to look for, but I know the process well enough that I know what they should be doing.
Right. You don't have to be a specialist at each thing. And that's why you hire people, so they become specialists at their niche. But you have enough to manage the person, to control it, to make decisions. Does that sound
But
right?
you do need to have some knowledge, yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the 8 parts. So the purpose of setting forth this division is to increase an understanding of how creative real estate works by placing it into compartments. Okay?
Yeah.
Having subdivided the actions needed to do proper creative real estate transactions in this fashion, each separate component can be and should be inspected individually. Then its relationship to the other components as a whole,
Hmm.
right? So let me think for a second. I was thinking about driving. So it's like, before you can drive, you probably should take a driver's test. You should know what the lines are and the street signs and all that. And then someday you actually get in the car and you drive it.
Right.
Right? But you break it down into components so you understand each one. Now, you don't have to be a master at each one. I'm going to cover that in a few minutes to get going. Okay, but by breaking it down into these 8 components, you can at least recognize where things go and they don't get mixed up now.
Right. And they depend on each other, like you're saying. Like step 2 has to depend on step 1 being done right. And step 3 depends on step 2 being done right. And maybe step 3 depends on 1 being done right in the first place, etc.
Yeah, they're not really steps. I'm going to go over that in a few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
They're compartments.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I'm going to go over that in a few minutes.
Okay.
So each of the components have their own rules and actions to take and could be completely separate from the other components.
Mm-hmm.
While the components are categorized or are divisions or the broad topic of creative real estate investing, they are not necessarily equal to each other. Okay? I know I'm being technical today, but that's why it's on a podcast, and I'm not doing it any other way, because you can go listen to this 100 times.
Yeah.
So I have found amongst individuals that each person stresses one or more of these compartments more than the others. Okay? Thus leaving that person stuck and often unable to continue through to a successful result, and often feel frustrated and wanting to give up.
Mm.
Like, for example, I think it's number 3, right, is deal structuring, right?
Right.
Yeah, they'll spend all their time trying to do deal structuring, not aware that there's 7 other components that they have to put it together, and then wonder why they aren't making deals.
Yeah. You need all 7 components for this to work, don't you?
Yeah.
You can't leave any of them out.
Every deal has all 8 of these components.
Right. And when people start, they're probably not good at any of them in the beginning.
Right.
And they might get good at a few, but there's got to be a few that they really stink at. I mean, how many people are good at all parts?
Right.
So any one part, it would fall apart, wouldn't it?
Yeah. You have to have all 8 components to put the deal together as a whole.
Okay.
I mean, this is no different than a recipe.
Mm-hmm.
I want to make a cake, and I forget to put the eggs in. What do I do now?
Yeah.
I end up with a cake, but how does it taste?
Hey, one day I put bicarbonate of soda instead of baking powder. That didn't come out too good.
Yeah.
The cans look the same. Right? Not good.
So here's the thing. The student, which I had this happen to me during the week, I had a support ticket this week, will leave one of the ingredients of the cake out, and then get the seller to agree, get the buyer to agree, and then start trying to do the paperwork, and all of a sudden have nothing but trouble because the deal blows up because it's not done right.
Right.
They missed one of the components. right? Let me give you another example. A lot of students get stuck in how to do finance deals at first, or how to finance the deals. They think the only place to get money for deals is from the bank or hard money lenders, right?
Yep.
This is compartment 3, generating creative real estate structuring and available resources. We just talked about that.
Right.
But it's not step 3 when you're learning.
What do you
That's
mean?
why it's not steps. So when you first start out, you think to yourself, I don't have the money. So you don't go to step 3 and learn that and then go back to step 1. It's not a step. If you understand the component of component 3, when you're learning, you might start there, which we do. We teach deal structuring the first time people meet us. We teach deal structuring. What that does is that shifts their reality on, oh, I don't need money.
So in the learning process, you don't have to learn them in sequence.
Right.
In performing, do they wind up in sequence then?
When you're doing a deal, they go in sequence.
Right, but learning, and I remember being at your first meetup when I was real new to this, and after a while I was surprised that, because I knew a little bit, but I was surprised that you started with deal structuring after a couple of visits. I thought, well, I want to get started. How do I get started? I understand the deal, but how do I get started? And then you pointed out you can't start unless you know where the hell you're going. So it made sense that it's kind of a pivot point, and then you could go, okay, then you can start at the beginning, knowing where you're headed, and then it made sense why you did it that way, because otherwise people have no idea of the deals types and offer types that are available. That was mind blowing. People sat there with their mouths open. You mean you can do that? You can do that? Really? It was quite remarkable.
It's because people don't know about an option and the power of it.
Yeah.
So we have to start off with, this is how you buy this is how you buy money with no money. I mean, buy real estate with no money. Is we use options. That's the magic of my whole system, is options. It's not a trick. It's not some special training. It's just, I really understand options and how to use them. Option agreements, which is the right to buy a house for little consideration. So that's the Rockefeller rule, right?
Yeah.
Own nothing, control everything.
Well, how do you get better than you have exclusive right to do something, but you don't have to? If it doesn't work out, say, sorry.
You have a liability.
Yeah.
Right.
Which solves the problem of people being afraid of it.
Right. Which is why you and I spend so much time with the new guys, showing them the 7 strategies. They have to know there are ways. There are more ways to do real estate than just going to the bank and getting money.
Yep.
But now after today, everyone will know this is just one aspect of the deal when it's in play. Right? Here's another example. People will join my advanced coaching program. My group is $500 a month for weekly calls.
Yeah.
There's a lot of other things you get to, but that's it, right? But don't have the understanding of number 1, which is create your real estate existence through time management, under control. And number 2, deal hunting and marketing and pre-screening in. Yeah. And it doesn't take long to do this. It's just that they don't understand that they're compartments they need to do. So they think that they're just going to like willy-nilly find a deal and then come to the coaching call and get deal structuring. Because the coaching group is for deal structuring and script development. Although I've helped a lot with the marketing. So now we're on the call and I've got 15 or 20 guys on the call, and somebody's stuck with, how do I find deals? And the rest of the guys are like, I already know this. Why are we doing this? That's why it's called advanced coaching.
Yeah.
Which is the exact reason why I'm changing my entire online platform and coaching platform. Because when I put these things into compartments, I realized that was my mistake. So as of September 2020, you'll be able to buy all of these $37, $67, $97 products that I have. They're not going to be for sale anymore. and I'm going to put everything into a $97 a month coaching group to just find deals.
So just to get people started.
Mm-hmm.
That is a really good idea.
Because too many people tell me when I'm talking to them one-on-one and they want to do coaching, because I was on the meetup last night and I had, I don't know, 50 something people on there, 60 people, I don't know what it was. And I have, in the middle of doing my presentation, they're sending me messages like, how much is your advanced coaching? So I wasn't trying to promote that at all. It was just, they were asking questions.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Until they know there's 8 components, why would they jump right to the advanced coaching? The advanced coaching is to do deal structuring. Right? You have to do some setup. Now, this doesn't take long, and it doesn't take much. I mean, you could do deal hunting in a day and get leads coming in. Right? It doesn't take long. You just got to know what to do. Right?
Yeah.
And it's not enough for the students to follow. Right? It's not a straight line. My coaching, the system we have right now, they follow it, but it's not a straight line. So as of September 2020, I'm fixing that. It's too all over the place right now. So until we put those components together, these components I'm talking about, you and I, because we've been talking about this for a week or two, until I put them together, I didn't see it. So as of September 2020, we'll have the coaching group that I just spoke about to help students get component number 1 and component number 2 in. It doesn't take long to do that. Then once they get some of the deal flow, they'll be ready for the advanced coaching or training.
That makes so much sense to me, just educationally and practically, because I've been through those beginning steps. Instead of somebody buying each little bit, buy a little piece of this, a little piece of that, it's more confusion in a sense. So you're going to let them have all that beginning stuff, the whole pile, and have some guidance in it. So if that's done right, which is I get the picture of what you're trying to do, give them all that introductory bits and coach them on it, they would launch a business where they start getting leads, which is the exciting part of this. And it's bizarre that it really works the way you say. You do a little outflow, you do some of the marketing, and people call. I'm relaunching this part of the business. I was doing some other type of real estate. I was doing more apartments for a little bit. I'm relaunching all this with everything we've learned lately. I get leads every week. I'm not even working hard at it yet because of just personal things I'm working in, COVID and what the hell. But just a little bit of launch and you get leads all the time.
Yep.
And if it's not the right lead, I don't even chase them. Like, hey, he didn't call me back.
Right.
He's interested. He should call me back. I sent him an email. He didn't answer me. Like, all right, I'll let him hang a little bit. And I just go get somebody else. And as soon as the right guy comes along, it's a deal. But that's smart to get that first part organized so people can win at that first piece, because the rest of it can be figured out. If you don't have somebody knocking on your door, what are you going to do?
Right. So as of this week, you sign on to my coaching program, which you can start with if you want. You're automatically, as part of my $500 a month, you're automatically going to get the $97. It's included. So you're going to pay $500. You're going to get both coaching groups. So that means once a week, we're going to do a coaching call. And once a month, you're going to be on the lead generation call, so you know how to get leads. Okay. And in the coaching portal, in that $97 portal, I got to go there. I wasn't planning on doing this, but so if you go to Flipping Houses for Rookies, monthly mastery. So it's Flipping Houses for Rookies, monthly mastery. We just put this page up yesterday. In this $97 a month thing, not only are you going to get coaching, but in the portal, you're going to get these bonuses. You're going to get my Attracting Motivated Seller course, my FSBO Script Explain course, doing deals with a cell phone for $100 and $100. You're going to get deal hunting with the FSBO script. You're going to get the yellow letter course, whack the suspects, keep the prospects. You're going to get the zeroing in on making great offers. Plus, I'm going to give you the package that we were selling for $37, which is not worth $37. It's worth well over $1,000, where I actually give you my offer calculator, my letter of intent letter, it's 8 pages, my 1-page lease option form, so you're ready to go. So all that stuff is going to be in the portal. So when you sign on for the $97 first, you get all that stuff included. So the bonus for signing up for $97, right? You get all those courses. And
That's great.
If you sign up for coaching now, you get all that stuff included plus the call for $500 a month. Okay, and I'm not here trying to sell that. I'm just saying that I have to change this because it was not a straight line. I had to fix it so that people can understand.
Now, we've always known, because we've seen it, that as soon as a person starts getting deals coming their way, people calling them and like opportunities, they freak out and they go, what do I do now? And they come to you for guidance on how to do that. So the trick is just to get leads that you know this can work, because you get the right one and you get a deal and you'll make some money. But it was a little bit hodgepodge, and just putting it all together in one package, that's plenty of data. You don't have to use all of it all at once. You just start using some of it and things start to happen. I just did letters when I first talked to you 5 years ago, just letters, you know, and I started getting people calling me like, what? And then 2 weeks later, the whole thing took 2 weeks. I'm getting people calling me. It's crazy.
So before I go any further, I have to say this because it's just me. This is August of 2020. I am here to tell you, Peter, with all of my passion, anybody that thought that they had for one split second, that's what I want to say, wanted to get into real estate, the next 18 months is the time to do it, because with the amount of defaults because of COVID that are going to hit this market, once we get through the election and the political thing of this COVID stuff, the amount of defaults and the people that are going to need relief from those defaults is going to be highest ever. So once we get through the next couple months and the floodgates open, not to mention we've had a pent-up market since March, so it's been 6 months of a pent-up market where people are not putting their properties on the market and they want to. Between the pent-up market and the default relief that you're going to be able to offer your sellers, now is the time. The next 18 months is the best time in history to get into real estate investing, because it'll be the easiest way to learn with the information that I'm teaching you. Easiest way in the world. Now is the time. If you ever thought you want to make money, now is the time. Okay?
Which will certainly the last, I don't know, year or two, when things have been tight and annoying and overpriced and limited. Just, and it's a lot of us just hanging in there like better days are coming around the corner, and they sure are. We've talked to enough people. It's you know, it's
so now bringing into light these components is half the problem. The other half is the students make one or more of these components more important than the others. Like, I have to know how to do this, or I have to know how to do that. So they're trying to do before they have. I'm going to go over that in a minute. Okay, so they think they have to have this, they have to have that, they don't. And this is for a couple reasons. Number one, they don't know the complete cycle of action for each component and what it needs. Which brings me to number two, which is the next point, is when it's done. So how do you know component number one is done?
Okay, good question.
Right? Is it what's the final product for each component? In other words, what's the bullseye for that component? How do you know what's in?
I guess you're going to tell us.
Not today. I'm going to do that next week. Well, I don't have enough time to do it today. The podcast would be 4 hours today, but I don't have enough time.
I just have a wild guess. Can I just throw it's a 3-second answer?
Sure.
When one step is done, does the next step appear?
Yeah, but there's specific things.
Okay.
Right? So think of it like a statistic. What is a statistic? A statistic measures something from the past to what's happening in the current. Right. So last week I had 40 leads. This week I have 30. Okay, so that's what a statistic is. Okay, what if we know that deal number, compartment number 2 is you have a certain amount of leads coming in. I need 75 leads.
Mm.
When you have 75 leads, you know that compartment is in and running, and you're good.
Okay. Yeah, it's functioning good enough to produce.
Doesn't mean that when you have 10 leads, you still don't use that compartment. It's just the goal isn't attained, and you need to keep working on that.
Right. Okay.
But there will be a point where you don't have to keep creating compartment number 2. You just need to maintain it.
Got it.
Right?
Okay.
So I'm going to do these again because there's another one. So number 1 is they don't know the completed cycle of action for what needs to be done. They don't know the steps. Step 1, step 2, step 3, right?
For each component.
Yeah, for each component. They all have their own steps that have to be done, right? They're micro steps, and they don't have to be big steps.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, we could do this, we could do each one of these in a day if we want to.
Right.
Which brings us to number 2. When is it done?
Mm.
And what are the final products for each compartment? And then lastly, each compartment has its own be, do, have to get the rest of the results.
Okay.
So example, when you're deal hunting for acquisitions, you'll be a certain way, do specific things with sellers, and have certain completions so you know you're done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. When you're selling a house, you'll be something different with buyers.
And you mean, when you say be, you mean an attitude or a knowledge base, an approach?
Yeah, let me finish. So when you're selling a house, you will be something different when buying with buyers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do specific things with those buyers.
Mm-hmm.
And have a whole different thing when you're done. And in this case, it's different than acquiring a house. So selling a house has different products or you have different things than when you're buying a house. When you're acquiring a house, the product's different.
Sure.
When you're selling a house, you get the big check.
Mm.
So you're going to be different than the acquisition manager. So now the acquisition manager is going to want to know deal structuring and know how to structure the deal, and he's going to want to know money now, money monthly, money later. He's going to want to know the formulas, which one to plug in where, right? The big one is money now, money monthly, money later. When you're selling a house, you're not going to worry about money now, money later, because it was already done in the other step.
Mm-hmm.
So the be, do, have is different in each component. Because when you're selling the house, you're gonna use different tools to get different results.
Got it. Okay.
You see the difference?
Yeah.
So even though we will overlap some of our tools between acquisitions and selling, they are 2 different be, do, have cycles of action.
Mm.
Right? By having these separate buckets named, we can now start to learn what to do in each when the target is hit and the final product is completed, and how we would be, do, have while working that bucket. So if I'm going to be an acquisition manager, I'm going to have one hat on, right? Like a hat, like if you were on a train, right? And the engineer driving, he has an engineer hat. He's going to do something different than the guy that has the hat that collects the money for the tickets.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the train. It's all about the destination. It's all about the passengers, but there's specific things the engineer is going to do and specific things that the ticket collector is going to do.
Right. Okay.
And there's just different people. Like an engineer might need certain skills to drive the train, where the ticket collector is going to have separate skills. Now, can the engineer collect tickets? Yeah. Can the ticket collector drive the train? Yeah. If he understands that they're different buckets and they do the specific things that the engineer needs to do or the ticket collector needs to do.
Right. Okay.
They're just different hats. This will set you up when you understand these compartments. It will set you up for number 8, which is the systems, because you'll have an acquisition manager and you'll have a selling manager, right?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're teaching the selling manager, you don't need to, and I've made this mistake, and until I wrote this, I didn't realize I was making this mistake, but you don't have to teach the buying manager all the acquisition stuff.
Oh.
You don't have to teach the selling, the acquisition manager, the acquisition manager, all the selling stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You can just teach them their specific thing,
Mm-hmm.
and you'll start to isolate and separate each of these actions, and it's easier to understand and easier to think with when you put them in compartments.
Mm.
Right?
And that sounds really helpful for when you're doing this yourself in the beginning, to learn those. To
which hat to wear when.
Yeah, I used to work somewhere where the boss had like 3 or 4 other jobs they had to do because small operation. And I remember the boss would start talking and go, well, wait a minute. Which hat are you wearing right now? Like, oh, okay. So he had to like this job, from this perspective. And sometimes we do different things. You tell me from this hat conversation, then from that hat.
I'll call Peter up and say, hey, Pete, I'm wearing an acquisition manager hat.
Yep.
And we'll talk. Or I'll call and say, I'm wearing the finance hat right now.
Mm-hmm.
Just so when we're having the conversation, he knows where I'm coming from.
Right. Oh, that's really confusing for an employee or somebody on the team. Like, wait a minute, which, when you have more than one hat, like, who the hell are you right now?
Right.
Yeah.
So now it's pretty far into the podcast. We're pretty far in, and we're going to have to do part 2, like I talked about, because I'd like to make the steps or go over the steps of the 8 components. And I think that will take a podcast by itself, because I want to make sure we understand what those steps are. I want to make sure we know what the bullseye is, the product attained, and I want to talk about those. So we're going to do that next week. Okay. However, there's one more important factor that I want to go over with these compartments.
Yes.
Each bucket has its own awareness that must be mastered over time. Fortunately, there are only 4 of these awarenesses that you have to master. And I want to cover those.
Okay.
So in each bucket, the time management, the acquisitions, the buyer, all that, each bucket has these, and it doesn't take long to get them. It sounds complicated because I'm like breaking it down, but honestly, when you do it, and I help you, especially with the coaching, it goes smooth. So number 1 awareness is you have an unconscious knowledge. Okay? You don't know what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Which simply means you're not aware of the effects that you will generate as you're working.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's what we're afraid of, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah. What if I screw something up and you're not sure what it could be? So that's unconscious.
It's unconscious knowledge.
Mm.
Right? So let me give it to you again, which simply means you are not aware of the effects that you will generate as you are working, or you won't typically recognize the skill deficiency, or there are even skills to be known and beneficial to you.
Mm.
So you're setting the deal up, right?
Yeah.
And in the beginning, I come off as kind of like this hard ass, and I'm like, I'm strict, and it's only because I've had so many deals blow up because of the little things, the details.
Mm-hmm.
So the unconscious knowledge doesn't have the details. They just have the concept that I want to do this. They don't know the details. They're not aware of the details. So if I tell you, I give you directions for your car, and I tell you go up to the stop sign and take a right, but be careful of the pothole on the right side of the road because you might hit it and get a flat tire. right? If you
Mhm.
don't know that, you'll go up to the stop sign and not know whether to take a right or left. And if you are smart enough to take a right, you'll hit the pothole, blow your tire out, and spend 2 days trying to fix the tire.
Yeah.
And then think that something's wrong with the system that you're using.
Oh.
When really it's not. It was just your unconscious knowledge that could even happen.
Mm. Yeah, like when I tried to put my generator together and some cords to backfeed it into the dryer vent in the house. My son was going to help me and says, is it a 3-prong or 4-prong? It's 3-prong. So I put it together and no, it's a 3-prong 50 amp. And, because there's 3 prongs, but there's it could be 3 prongs or a special prong with a funny angle. I didn't even look. I didn't know it existed, so I didn't know to look for it. So my poor kid had to go all the way back home to get a prong, to put it in, to play. So you're not aware of what you should be paying attention to. So
You didn't even see it.
I didn't know
what is
3-prong, 5-prong, 4-prong. That's all I knew. I didn't look any closer.
What is the saying? You need to help me with this. The student sees the teacher when he's ready, type of thing.
Yeah, it's
So what that means is the student all of a sudden encountered a barrier.
Yeah.
The student all of a sudden encountered a barrier, and they're like, "Oh, I didn't know about that. Oh, I better have somebody teach that to me."
Yeah, and my son knew about that. So okay, there we go.
Right. So if you're doing real estate and you're not aware of what could happen, then until it happens to you, you don't know it's a problem. And then when it does happen, you blame the instructor for not telling you, and there's so many things that could happen. Like, for example, I could create this recipe, right, of some type of food. And I own a restaurant, and I could have this recipe, and I make this amazing dish, right?
Right.
And it's like, oh my God, everybody's going to love this, right? And then somebody comes in with a food allergy.
Yep.
So now I have to make that recipe to adapt the food allergy. Mm-hmm. And then somebody else comes in with some sort of concern about food poisoning. So now, and so you keep adapting the recipe, and then all of a sudden it doesn't taste like it's supposed to.
Oh.
So somebody like me can't make a system that has all of the things that could happen to it, because it would dilute the system. Mm. So instead, what you have to do, so it's hard for me to say, oh, this might happen, or that might happen, or this might happen, or that might happen, because there's so many scenarios that I couldn't possibly teach all of them to you.
Yeah, you'd probably scare people too if you showed every possible thing that could go wrong. So what do you do about that?
Like I had a guy that was on the meetup last night that was hitting me with, what happens if you do a lease option with a seller, you put a buyer in the house, right? Mm-hmm. And the buyer's paying you, and the owner doesn't pay the mortgage and forecloses. Okay, well, that's a common one. I know what to do with that. So I told him what to do.
Yeah.
But then he comes up with, well, what happens if he owns a business and he goes bankrupt and all of a sudden there's a bunch of liens against the deed? I never had that happen. I don't know. Mm-hmm. So my suggestion was put it in a trust so they can't lien the deed. Mm-hmm. Point is that he's bringing up objections that 18 years and hundreds of deals, I've never had that happen. Mm-hmm. So why would I teach that to everybody else when it never happened?
No. So my question would be, do you have a catch-all for problems that come up? Like just find an expert in that? Or, I mean, I know you and you don't worry about these things happening because you always can figure out within a day or two something to do about it.
So let's just keep going, and I think you'll get your question answered.
Okay.
Okay, and if not, then we'll come back to it. So number one is unconscious knowledge. You're not even aware of what you don't know.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, good. Now we have a name.
What's that?
Good. Now we have a name for that.
Yeah. This is the beginning. It's falling in love with the results of having money, freedom, control of your time, instead of falling in love with the idea of helping people with real estate to live better lives. Mm-hmm. Right? It's kind of like my niece falling in love with the idea of having a boyfriend instead of looking at a boyfriend that doesn't fit her. Or one of my daughters. Let's say one of my daughters has the concept of, I want to be married, I want to have a white picket fence, and I want to live in a house.
Yeah.
But not paying attention to the husband, who's the person she wants to marry, who is like a drug addict. Right? It's like,
but the reality doesn't match.
Right. So not having the details, but having the concept of what you want is two different things. So this step is having the concept of what could be, but not the details.
Sure.
Okay. Which brings us to number 2, which is a conscious knowledge. At this stage, the awareness is there as a skill gap.
A skill gap.
Yeah. So now you're aware that there's problems, but you don't know how to solve them.
All right. So there's some knowledge, but you have some awareness of the gaps.
At this point, you're aware that the pothole is there. So how do I avoid it? Right? You started to do a few deals and they blew up, and this happened and that happened. And you're like, oh my God, I never even knew that could happen. What do I do about it? Right? And the student needs to fill in the blanks to get the failure out of the process. Right?
And that's the gaps. He's trying to fill the gaps, and when he sees the pothole or something else, he comes up with a way to fix it.
In this step, most seek to watch others do it or desire real-life role-playing for practice and skill retainment or refinement. Too often, students get stuck in this category thinking that they need to know it all before they do it. They're afraid that if this happens and they don't know what to do, they'll look like a fool, or that they'll get stuck, or worse, the seller will think they're not professional. Right? Plus, this is where I hear a lot of the students that tell me they're visual learners and want to see it, when really they either have misunderstood words or symbols and don't know it, or they're in this stage and don't know this stage. They're not aware this is actually a stage, and everybody goes through it.
Yeah,
you know
it's okay.
You know what this is like, Peter? And I'm going to probably joke about this. This is going to be one of my bad humor jokes. But conscious knowledge has a synonym to it. You want to know what it is?
What?
Puberty.
Oh, okay.
Right? Everybody goes through it, but you know that certain things are happening. Certain things are occurring to your body. So you feel you have hormones. You're not, you're aware of this, but you're not really sure what to do.
Yeah.
Right? Everybody goes through it. But if you don't name it and you don't know that it's conscious knowledge after unconscious knowledge, you don't know that you're going through this awareness in the business, you'll think you're doing something wrong. You'll not keep studying, or you'll ask for a refund on a course because you think the instructor did something wrong, or when really it's you and your evaluation of what your own awareness is at that time.
Well, one thing I noticed interesting about learning anything, I'm a teacher, music teacher, and other things. Watch any student, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, whatever they are, 16, when they're in school, they know they don't know stuff, and they willingly sit there day after day to learn stuff because they don't know it. And they realize they just have to do that, and they accept it, and they just keep doing it. They just keep plowing through and muddling through. And sometimes a grown-up has to go through those steps and doesn't think he should do it because he's a grown-up or he can't. But that's normal. You just have to sit there and keep learning. Yep. Kids just do it every day. They get pounded. It's not easy. They show up the next day and they just keep going. They got no choice. I'm a kid. So if you're learning this, just keep going.
Which brings us to number 3, which is competent knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
At this stage, the student can use the system he or she bulldoze through, but need to concentrate on it, the system, and make sure they have their attention on the system, like what they're doing, too much, and miss the telltales of the seller, the buyer, the money guy, or the property itself. So they've memorized the system of how to make an offer, how to do deal structuring, how to do all the, all these things, how to talk to a money guy, but they miss the telltales. They're introverted on, here's what I got to do. So many times we're doing role playing. And the number one thing I have to correct almost every student on is the seller's talking and giving them the answers they need. They're giving them the telltales, but the students too not paying attention and thinking about what they're going to say next, and completely miss the opportunity.
Yeah,
completely miss that the seller tells them that I'll do the deal if you just change this one thing, and then they'll go on to the next part of the presentation or the next part of the system, and completely miss that they could have done a deal and end up in left field and then end up blowing the deal.
No home run there.
In other words, it's sales talk. This is sales talk. They talked past the close because they didn't recognize the close.
Yeah,
because they're too busy thinking about the presentation.
Sounds like they're not comfortable enough with the information to just relax and to just calmly use it and listen. I mean, to me, it sounds like when somebody's trying to be an actor and they can read the words, but they're not comfortable. They're not looking around. They're not like talking to the other person. They're just like, saying the words.
This goes back to be, do, have. So they're doing the script. They're not being it.
Yeah. But it's a necessary stage you have to go through, right?
Yes. You have to have these awarenesses to know where they are to be able to recognize them and fix it.
Sounds like he's getting there.
Yeah. And these missed telltales cause trouble once in the deal. Only because it wasn't set up properly to start and mistakes happen. These mistakes are later called, I needed to learn anyways, so I'm glad I did it. This student usually, like a bull in the china shop, can get a few deals done. But often roller coasters, they go up and down like a roller coaster, and doesn't stick to consistency and changes. I'm sorry, I'm going to do that again. So they roller coaster with their income, goes up, it goes down, and doesn't stick to consistency and chases shiny objects. New software, new this, they're trying to solve the problem some other way when they didn't realize that they were actually in this stage of awareness called competent knowledge, where they had the knowledge, much like what you say, your example's great. It's like an actor having a script, but not being the part. They're just trying to go through it. And I will tell you, the students that do this just for money lose deals. Because they're doing it for the wrong reason.
Yeah. They wouldn't be listening to the seller then to try to help them.
Right.
It's a rough thing because we all start this to make money.
Yep.
I mean, I'm not sure how many people are, I want to get into real estate to help people. It's not the usual mindset. Like I'll go be a charity person or something. But if we're smart about it, we realize that's what's really happening. I've told people on the phone, if I can't help you, we got nothing. I get nothing, you get nothing.
So you and I are old bastards, and I'm going to use this analogy that some may not get, but some will. We're in the era of computers. When we were kids, there weren't computers.
I think you froze there, Bill.
Okay, am I back?
Oh.
Am I back? So I don't think it's me that's freezing, but can you hear me?
I'm still not hearing you. You froze a few seconds ago.
Okay, can you hear me now?
I heard that, but then it went away again.
Okay, because I stopped talking. Can you hear me now?
Do you hear and see me okay?
Yeah, so they're telling me on Facebook they can hear me, so it must be something with your internet. So, okay, so I'm just
I heard
gonna
that, but then
I'm going to keep
away
going
again.
until you can catch up. So, we're old bastards.
Okay.
Okay. So what happens is there's this
Okay.
there's this thing that we have computers. So when we first wanted to buy a computer, right, we went to the computer store, and the kid usually would start babbling all these things like RAM and BTUs, all these things that we had no idea what they were. And all he was trying to do was sell us a computer.
Yep.
He didn't care about what we were doing with the computer. He just wanted, because it was like one computer, one size fits all.
Yeah.
And that's like what the realtor does. It's one size fits all. They're just trying to sell you a computer. Where in the creative real estate business, what we're going to do is we're going to be that computer salesperson, and we're going to ask, what are you doing with the computer? Like, for example, I'm a graphic artist. Oh, then you probably should buy a Mac. Or, you know, I'm an analysis. I'm what do they call them in Mark Yingling? What is he? Actuator for an insurance company.
Oh, an actuary.
An actuary. Yeah. So he needs Excel spreadsheets and all that. So he might be better with a PC, right? So when you find out what they really need, you can sell him the right computer, right? That's what this is like in real estate. You know, if you're gonna do ugly house business, then it doesn't matter. You don't need any of this. But if you're gonna do creative real estate, you need to have this knowledge on how to figure out what they're gonna do with it. Okay. So that brings us to step number 4, the last awareness step, which is unconscious competence. Unconscious competence. In other words, you have competence and you don't think about it. It's unconscious. After enough real estate practice and experience, the
sounds
ability,
like you're natural.
Yeah. So after enough real estate practice and experience, the ability is ingrained into the student. It is not a system any longer. It is the student himself. It is his beingness. So when doing comes, so the doing just comes natural, and he uses it as confidence skill. So he doesn't think about the system anymore. When something just pops up, he knows what to do.
Right.
Most important and critical, this stage allows the student to see and know the ideal scene, so he can spot points that are out a mile away and stop the train before it wrecks. So he's not introverted.
And all these 4 stages, or whatever you want to call them, apply to each compartment.
Each component, you'll go through this as you cycle through them. The amazing thing is you don't need all these awarenesses. You can go through all the components at awareness number 1. And then you might go through all the components at awareness number 2. And then you might go through all the components at awareness number 3. And then sooner or later, you'll go through all the components at awareness number 4. Just realize what your awareness is in each component. Now, here's the amazing thing. If your awareness is really good on component, like your awareness is number 4 on component number 3, which is deal structuring, but it really sucks at number 2, which is deal hunting, then find somebody and get them through the awareness characteristics here on number 2, and they become your employee or partner or whatever.
Yeah,
now here's
that
today's
makes sense, because no one's going to, very few people, if anyone, can be good at all of those necessarily.
Right. So now here's the punchline for today. Each student will naturally go through these awarenesses, like I said, in each compartment. And when he or she does a deal, he blends one compartment to the next. the awareness will be as a whole for the entire action. So you individually, you'll have awareness levels in each compartment. And then once you get do enough deals,
Mhm.
you'll then have the awareness characteristics for all 8 components. So you'll have an awareness for component 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you're going to have an awareness for all of them together. So like you're looking at me like I don't know what I'm talking about. So like number 1, you might have component 1, you'll be awareness number 4. Compartment 2, you might be awareness number 2. Compartment 3, you might be awareness number 1. Right? Sooner or later, you're going to have an awareness.
Right, each one's going to be a little bit different.
Right. Sooner or later, you'll bring all those up, and then when it's time to put them together and use them in a whole, now you're going to have awareness 1, 2, 3, 4 as using all 8 of them. Right? Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah, sometimes I'm staring at you because there's a little freezing going on, so it's just that I'm following you.
So is this making sense?
Yeah. So it sounds like something you have to go through. Do you have any tips of how to do it or how to survive it or just push through?
So because
it just happens.
Took me so long to explain it. Next week, that's what I'm going to do in part 2. Is we're going to break down the steps and each component, and we're going to talk about how you can get through them. Because some of them you don't need to be awareness for on. Right? You can outsource some of it. Right? Like I can tell you right now, believe it or not, my weakness is on deal hunting. Believe it or not. I'm really good at it, but I don't do it every day because I find it very monotonous and annoying to like do it every day. So I'm constantly hiring a VA or somebody else to do it because I'm off doing other things. Right?
Yeah, well, you have components or compartments that you like more than others. Why not?
Yeah, that's my point.
And we call you deal maker because I think I love the deal making part, right?
Yeah, I have.
So why should you be fiddling around with like deal hunting? I'll help do that. Some VAs help do that.
Right. All right. So I want to go into the chat before we hang up because we've got a lot of activity in the chat. So, so Jessica, I totally got it. She says, "Oh my God, I was talking about this this very subject. Actually, I could probably do this. Look, how's that? I could put it right in the thing there. You see it? Oh my God, I was talking about this very subject." Yeah. Right. Look at this. Desiree says, "You're in my head, Bill." So Desiree also said these are answers.
Well, about a month ago when I started putting all the recent pieces together.
Desiree said these are answers to why we get scared to start. Exactly, Desiree. Right? Brian says the lawyer. He's talking about the lawyer. Right? And then let me see. Jeanette says we are comfortable with the things we like that we are good at, then that we then like. So we are comfortable with the things that we like, that we are good at, that we then like. It's true. She also says that it makes great sense, all of it. So thank you for that. Let me see what else I missed here. So Brian says, how will it be handled with the products you have already purchased? Oh, he's asking about the online stuff. I'm not 100% sure, Brian, but I'm not going to take anything away from you. So Emma blurted something out to me last night, and I didn't retain it because I was too busy worried about the coaching. So the thing to know is that if you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com/monthly mastery, that's going to be the new place to go, where you can get all of the deal hunting aspects and the time blocking type stuff, so that you can get up to the point where you can start making deals. And it's going to be a once a month coaching call that will hold your hand for $97 a month. I'm giving you $1,400 worth of materials for $97. So I'm very passionate about making sure that you understand this, which is why we made this podcast. But be aware that there's awareness characteristics on what you're learning, and you should listen to this podcast more than once, because there was a lot of meat in here, and it will be very helpful with you on how you go through your training. Okay. Anything else, Peter? I know your computer keeps freezing.
We're okay right now. What I like about it is I'm sure that any one of these compartments, if a person cannot do or farm it out, they will lose. So by really focusing on the different aspects, you've taken real estate from this big blob to like the compartments, like in a car, transmission, the engine, the paint job, the steering, the tires. You have to like put things in compartments and just focus on each one and just get as good as you can at each one, and then get help with the ones that you don't want to do or can't do. It's fine. But if you can get good at, make sure that all 8 of those happen, or all 7, you should be okay. And that's important.
The statement I want to make after you say this is this: you can't manage what you don't measure.
Mm.
So by us putting these in compartments, we can now measure them and easily manage them.
Right.
So what my expectation is to manage the training aspect of creative real estate, so your attention isn't on how do I get training and you don't do deals. Because that's the phenomenon that I'm trying to break here, is too many students spend too much time trying to learn and don't do deals. Once they get going and they start getting further into their career, they soon realize, which that is, by the way, unconscious knowledge. They think they need to learn everything, right? So they're learning. But later on, when they start doing deals, they're like, I don't know why I did that. I should have just started doing deals. A year later, 2 years later, 6 months later, $10,000 later, whatever. So my entire goal in life is to get people to do it and learn while they're doing it. It's called learning out loud. So learn out loud with your sellers. A few weeks ago I talked about, don't try to buy a house. Go on Facebook Marketplace or Zillow, find it for sale by owner, use the script, make an appointment, go in the house, and don't try to buy it. Just practice talking to the seller. So now when it's time for you to get education, you know where your weaknesses are and you know where your strengths are. So that's managing by statistics, right? So you're not managing by rumors or what people say or what I say or what Ron LeGrand says or Lance Edwards says or whoever. No, what you're doing is you're actually doing something, and when you're doing something, you actually know where your weaknesses are. Oh, my sister's such a sweetheart. She just brought me a big tall glass of iced tea. Thank you. So by having these components and knowing what has to be done in each one of the components, you can notice that you have a weakness there or don't have a weakness there. So now you don't have to learn how to do deal structuring. You need to learn how to do one piece of deal structuring that you're weak on. Or if you're having trouble with deal hunting, you don't have to learn all of deal hunting. You're like, I need to know this one thing, and then it all come together. And now what happens is it focuses your attention on the weakness and brings the statistic up because you fixed that idea or that problem.
Yeah. All it takes is one thing messing you up, and it's like the weak link in a chain. Right. So, and it takes generality too by compartment. It's not this big, like I go to a website years ago and there's like 100 videos, where to start. So you got it nicely compartmentalized.
So what was I going to say? I lost my train of thought. I don't know. I lost my train of thought. It was good too.
Sorry.
So what happens is when you're going through the material, you can break it down like what you just said. Right? And it
just take a lot of stress out of it too.
Right. Oh my God, we got a whole bunch. Desiree said, "You're in my head, Bill." I love that. Yes, Jeanette, it is kind of circular. And what's going to happen is when you're going through the circle, each time you go through it, your awareness will raise.
Mm-hmm.
So you are going to have to, when the first time you do it, you might be an awareness of unconscious knowledge. And then the second time, you might be in a different awareness. So yes, it is like a circle. Right? So Lone is asking, does the $37 lease option package come with both the lease and option agreement contract? It does not. If you were on the meetup last night, you can actually go Google those documents and find them to start with. Mine are much better, but if you just Google lease option in your state, you'll find a canned lease, and you could do a couple deals with those. Mine are much better; they're much more refined. And if you go to my website, you can find them there. Flipping Houses for Rookies. All right, good. So we're going to end off. Thank you, everybody, for being with us this morning and all the comments on YouTube and Facebook and all that kind of stuff. Don't forget to scroll down in the description of however you're listening to us on your phone or on your iPad or on your computer or your tablet. In the description, there's a link there with a whole bunch of free stuff in there. You should go check that out. Also, leave us a review. We love the reviews, especially on iTunes. If you go to flippinghousesforrookies.com, scroll down the page, the podcast, all the podcasts are there. Underneath it, there's a link that you can leave us a review, so you can do that. Or you could just subscribe. Also, subscribe to the channel of whatever platform you're listening to us. So every time we do a new podcast, you'll get it downloaded or you'll get it in your portal. Okay, so please stick with us. Next week is going to be really cool because we're going to break down those 8 components, and it will make a lot more sense. If it doesn't make sense now, we will make sure we cover it next week. And I personally, Peter, think that this is, of course, I'm biased because I'm creating it over here, but it'll probably be just like the 7 strategies have become revolutionary in the business. I think these 8 components will be the same because, quite frankly, eventually you'll realize this is the magic sauce for building your business. It's the 8 compartments or the 8 things you need to build a business. Okay.
Well, I think the amazing thing is, I don't know that you invented these. They're there, but like gravity wasn't invented either.
Exactly right.
But discovering this and clarifying and focusing and segmenting so they can be conquered individually and succeed at. That's the deal. I think you're onto something, Mr. Dealmaker.
Yes. Okay, good. And I gotta put this up. So Lone Star said, "Thanks, both you guys. You're awesome, very informative and entertaining." So thank you for that, because I didn't think I was entertaining, but I think Peter's entertaining.
Bill, you're informative. I'm entertaining.
He was talking about me smoking my cigar during the podcast. I think that's what he was talking about.
I could smell it from here.
Yeah, but it's a nub now, so now I got to go get a new one. I don't know why I picked a half a cigar. I should have got a brand new one, but oh well. All right, guys, so we're at the end of the podcast. Thank you for being with us. Make sure you give us a review and subscribe and go into your description section and click on the free stuff and go check that page out if you haven't done it already. All right? Talk to you next week. We're over now. Thanks.